Please watch our next video. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Langston. What we have here is a 1947 Crosley. It was my winter project, I guess you would say. I bought it from a gentleman in Wisconsin, bought it off of Craigslist, and it was painted. It needed some other work, and a couple months we got it all together. And actually, this is the first show that I've had it at, because it's close to home. Crosley is a very interesting person. Paul Crosley, back in the 20s, I believe, was selling radios. At the time, I believe a home radio was about $200, and he was selling them for $20. And so he made a fortune selling his radios. Then he started a radio station in Cincinnati. He owned the Cincinnati Reds, so it's a very interesting history. Cars are just a small part of that. He'd been making cars, I believe they started in 37, of course stopped at the war, then 46 through 52. They made sedans, station wagons, and a two-seater sports car, all basically the same chassis and engine, but different bodies. So this is one of the more common, it's a sedan. Gosh, I think the car weighs probably maybe 1,200 pounds, something like that. They say the engine's only 135 pounds. It's a four-cylinder engine, but it's an overhead cam, which is, sorry, kind of interesting for that point in time. You would think the technology was pretty good for 1940s overhead cam, but it has mechanical brakes, which is kind of the opposite of that. There's no turn signals, only one stoplight, so you have to use hand signals. The windows, until the later ones had roll-up windows. This has windows that just slide back and forth.
How much capacity in the radiator, really, again?
That's a good question. How much is in the radiator? I think I should know that. Probably about 5 or 6 quarts. I think I went through a gallon of antifreeze and a little bit more. It runs really cool.
How did you find this? How did you get interested in this?
I was looking for a winter project, and I was looking on Craigslist and found one locally that it wasn't very nice. It was more work than I, felt I'd want to put into it. So then as I was kind of researching it and reading up on Crosley's, because I didn't know anything about him, I said, it's a pretty interesting little car. So I then drove to Detroit to look at another one, which was a little bit better, but not much. And ultimately wound up getting this one around the Green Bay area. Looked at them all, found them all off of Craigslist. And this one, it was painted. It was painted about a year ago, he said, but I sanded it and buffed it and did some touch-up and pulled the engine out. The previous owner did a lot of work on it. He put... Just about, yeah. Yeah, it's... Yeah, I did use a cherry picker to get it out, but I mean, there's not much to it. The original engines that they made for this car was made out of basically sheet steel. Sometimes they call them a tin engine. It was about 135 pieces that was brazed together. And the concept of that was the control of temperature was much more constant with that type of engine. So as a result, you could run higher compression and get more power. The problem was, back in the 40s, the antifreeze was salt-based, and so that was kind of the end of those engines. It's hard to find one with an original engine. This is a later one with a cast iron block. Other than a couple of minor differences, just looking at them, they look the same. Basically, if it says Crosley real close to the top, it's a cast iron. If it says Crosley underneath the spark plugs, it's a tin engine. That's the big difference. Other than that, it's stock. I put this aftermarket aluminum valve cover on it. Other than that, it's about as stock as it can be.
Take a look at the interior.
Sure. Now, this is not an original interior. The original interior would be like a brownish vinyl, I guess you'd say. But the man that I bought it from, he'd started it and I'd finished it. He gave me a whole wad of this material. So the only thing that's not done is the headliner, because that's a little bit beyond my abilities. Originally it had a rubber mat and not carpet or anything, but the wood grain is correct. And all the gauges are functional and clear, which is a big plus. It's I think it's a little unusual. I just had the gas tank repaired because when I filled it up, there was a leak at the top, so it had to come apart. And then, of course, there was a loose baffle in it, and. So, tank is fixed, and I think we're pretty much ready to roll.
And then
What else?
So out of all the different cars that you have, how does this rank? Or you can't
I would say it's the slowest. My goal with this one is not to invest a lot of money in it. So I was lucky. Like I say, the previous owner did a lot of work on it. I essentially had to finish it, but the car was very complete, and all the hard work was done. So
this is the first thing I've ever seen before. One single brake light?
yes, there's no turn signals. It's a tail light or a running light and a brake light. You have to use hand signals, which is really hard to do with the windows that slide because you can't even roll the window down. So that's pretty, and coupled with the fact that it's very slow to begin with. Wow. It's a 3-speed transmission, no synchronizers. So you have to, downshifting, you have to double clutch.
What is top speed?
They say somewhere like 50 miles an hour. I've had it up to about 40, and boy, it's a 512 rear end, I believe, and 12-inch tires. So that little motor's really screaming.
So I don't know if we talked about it. So when you want to get parts like for wiper blade, tires, air filter, what do you do?
There's two, I guess you would say, Crosley experts. There's one company in Nevada called Service Motors that I think they pretty much bought a bunch of original stock, so they have just about everything. And there's another place called Yankee Crosley in Connecticut who actually was very helpful to me, because on his website he said he gives free advice. So he was actually very helpful in telling me what to look for, me not knowing the fine points of a Crosley. And those are the two companies that, between the two of them, I think you can find pretty much anything for a Crosley.
These windows operate. It's a two-way window.
That's it. Wow. They do lock or latch, but yeah, there's it's kind of old school. Also, the ignition switch is in the middle of the dash, but the starter button is on the left. So you turn the key on here, and then you hit the starter.
One of my favorite shows is Benny.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and this is your ventilation here. Since there is no cowl vent and there's not a tremendous amount of airflow even with the windows wide open, so these are just spring loaded. You can flip them out on either side. And the only thing that I didn't fix on it is the wipers. They're vacuum wipers, and they have a big vacuum motor. It appears to be the same like a Ford of the 30s would have. It's strange because they're, maybe 18 inches apart from each other. There's one motor for each wiper, but one control. So it seems like a lot of extra work. That's the only thing that I didn't make work since we were standing here in the raindrops.
This car can listen. This car can go right between.
Yeah, not fast though. But it's an interesting. It has a generator and the generator drives the water pump, which is external to the engine. So you can see some grease marks there. You have to periodically grease the water pump. I think it's kind of like an old tractor, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's just one belt, and it does kind of remind me of a tractor because the belt is, I don't know the size of the belt, but it's very thick. And there's only 2 blades on the fan, but it runs really, really cool. Yeah, it's just...
He's not been here before, so he needs to move over on our side.
Oh, and it also has, if I say friction shocks, I'm wrong, lever shocks. Oil-filled shocks that you can adjust. Basically a lever with a piece of linkage like this. So it's not a tube shock, not a hydraulic shock. Those I've been through, yeah, that's right. Lever shocks, mechanical brakes, but an overhead cam engine. And gee, I think that's has a straight axle in the front, parallel leafs, quarter elliptics in the back. Yeah, it rides pretty well for what it is, but it's a very, very narrow car. I think total length is a little less than 12 feet, but the width is only about 4 feet. So it's with 2 people in the car, you're definitely shoulder to shoulder.
Like an airplane. Like
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I'm sure I can think of much more to say, but the next car, yeah. Thanks for watching. And subscribe.
Please enjoy the next video.